Okay, so get this. You've probably already interacted with a non-woven electret today.
Really?
Yeah. From the mask you might have worn, on your commute or just out and about, to the air filter that's quietly working in your home. These materials are way more common than you might think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we're going to do a deep dive into the world of non-woven electrets today. And trust me, it's a lot more exciting than it might sound at first.
It really is fascinating.
Yeah.
These materials are essentially a combination of two key components. You have non-wovens, which are fabrics made without traditional weaving.
Oh, interesting.
And electrets, which hold a semi-permanent electrostatic charge.
So it's like static cling, but with like superpowers.
Exactly. And that combination unlocks some really amazing properties and applications. For this deep dive, we'll be looking at Professor Alexander Yaren's research from his paper, Blends, Nonwovens, and Electrets, to really get into the nitty-gritty of this field.
Professor Yaren is a bit of a rock star in the world of materials science, right?
He really is, yeah. He spent his career bridging physics, engineering, and materials science, which gives him a really unique perspective on the field. That cross-disciplinary approach is actually key to his breakthrough work with electrets.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So what's so special about his research?
Well, one of the biggest challenges with electrets is ensuring that electrostatic charge lasts. You don't want your air filter losing its effectiveness after a few days, right?
Definitely not. So how do you make that charge, stick around?
That's where Professor Yaren's blending technique comes in.
Okay.
He's found that by combining different types of polymers, you can essentially engineer the material to hold on to that charge for much longer periods of time.
Can you break that down a bit more for me? Polymers sound a little intimidating.
Sure. So I imagine like this. You have conducting polymers, which are great at carrying an electrical charge. Think of the stuff they use in some electronics. Then you have non-conducting polymers, which act like insulators. And by carefully blending these two types, Professor Yaren has found a way to enhance charge capture and distribution while preventing that charge from leaking away.
So it's about finding that perfect balance between conductivity and stability. I'm starting to see why Professor Yaren's background is so important here.
It's like a recipe where getting the proportions just right is essential for success. And it gets even more interesting when he introduces nanoparticles into the mix.
Nanoparticles, those are incredibly tiny, right? What do they do?
Yeah. They add another layer of functionality to the material, further enhancing charge retention or introducing other beneficial properties like adding spices to that recipe we were talking about. They can really make things pop.
Okay, so we've got these carefully blended non-woven electrets holding on to their electrostatic charge.
Yes.
What are some of the ways we're already seeing this technology being used?
Well, one of the most common applications is filtration.
Okay.
Think about the N95 masks that became so important recently.
Right.
They rely on non-woven electrets to capture those tiny particles we want to avoid breathing in.
So it's not just about physically blocking those particles, but actually attracting them with an electrostatic force field?
You got it. This makes them incredibly efficient, capturing not just dust, but even bacteria and viruses while still allowing air to flow through.
Wow.
But filtration is just the tip of the iceberg. We're also starting to see some really exciting developments in energy harvesting using non-woven electrets.
Hold on. Energy harvesting. Are we talking about generating electricity from thin air?
Not quite thin air.
Okay.
But something almost as remarkable, movement. These special electrets can be used in devices called triboelectric nanogenerators, which convert mechanical energy into electrical energy. Imagine your clothes generating a tiny bit of electricity just from you walking around.
That's mind-blowing. What other applications are we seeing with this technology?
Well, the medical field is another area where non-woven electrets are making waves. They're being incorporated into medical devices, not just for filtration, but also for creating better sterilization barriers. They're also being explored for use in wound dressings and even drug delivery systems.
So it sounds like Professor Yaren is really onto something with this blending approach. Are there any specific blends he highlights in his research?
He actually focuses on 3 blends in particular.
Okay.
Each with its own unique set of properties and potential applications.
Yeah.
The first one is what he calls the stable charge blend. This blend is all about maximizing charge retention for those applications where you really need that electrostatic charge to stick around for as long as possible.
So we're talking about air filters that need replacing less frequently, potentially even face masks that maintain their effectiveness for longer periods.
Exactly. That's the goal. And Professor Yaren's research is showing some very promising results. This stable charge blend is a testament to his multidisciplinary approach. It's a carefully crafted recipe of polymers and nanoparticles all working together to achieve a specific outcome.
All right, before we get to the other blends, I want to hear more about this stable charge blend. What makes it so good at holding on to that charge?
Well, the base of the blend is polypropylene, a very common non-conducting polymer. It's like the foundation of the recipe.
Okay.
Then he adds in a small amount of a conducting polymer called low-doped polyaniline, which is known for its ability to trap electrons.
So it's like a 1-2 punch, with the polypropylene providing stability and the polyaniline helping to lock in that electrostatic charge.
That's a great way to put it. And to top it off, he adds in titanium dioxide nanoparticles. These tiny particles play a crucial role in both enhancing charge trapping and improving the material's resistance to UV light.
So that's why this blend is so promising for applications like outdoor air filters or even those face masks we were talking about. It needs to be able to withstand exposure to sunlight.
Precisely. And this is where Professor Yaren's expertise really shines. He understands the specific needs of different applications and then carefully engineers the materials to meet those needs.
Okay. I'm officially hooked. What are the other blends he highlights in his research?
Well, the second one he focuses on is the Nano Shield blend, which is all about combining filtration with antimicrobial properties. And then there's the Flexi Harvest blend, which is designed specifically for those energy harvesting applications we were talking about earlier.
This is incredible. So much to unpack here. Let's dive into the Nano Shield blend next and see what kind of magic Professor Yaren has cooked up with that one.
So the Nano Shield blend is really interesting because it goes beyond just physical filtration.
Okay.
Professor Yaren wanted to create a material that could actually neutralize threats, not just, trap them.
Okay, so we're talking more than just, filtering out dust and pollen here. What kind of threats are we talking about?
Think bacteria and fungi. The kinds of microorganisms that can cause all sorts of problems, right? Professor Yaren wanted to create a material that could not only filter these microorganisms out of the air, but also prevent them from growing on the filter itself.
So like a self-cleaning, germ-fighting air filter.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty amazing. How did he manage to pull that off?
Well, he started with a base of polyethylene terephthalate,
Okay.
or PET.
Pete?
It's a strong, durable polymer that's great for maintaining the structural integrity of the non-woven fabric.
PT, that sounds familiar. Isn't that what they use for those, clear plastic water bottles?
That's right. It's a very versatile material.
Yeah.
And it's known for its ability to withstand heat and chemicals, which is important for this application.
Makes sense. So what's the secret ingredient that gives this blend its antimicrobial powers?
Well, just like with the stable charge blend, Professor Yaren uses a combination of conducting and non-conducting polymers.
Okay.
For the Nano Shield blend, he uses polypyrrole as the conducting polymer.
Polypyrrole. Okay, that one's new to me. What's so special about it?
It's known for its high surface conductivity, which means it's really good at attracting and distributing that electrostatic charge. But the real star of the show here is the addition of zinc oxide nanoparticles.
Zinc oxide. I know that one. Isn't that what they use in sunscreen?
Exactly. It's a natural mineral that has some pretty incredible properties. In sunscreen, it helps block UV rays, right?
Right.
But in the Nano Shield blend, it acts as a powerful antimicrobial agent.
So it's like having a microscopic army of germ fighters embedded right in the filter.
That's a great way to think about it. These zinc oxide nanoparticles disrupt the cell walls of bacteria and fungi, effectively neutralizing them.
Okay, so we've got the PET for structure, the polypyrrole for conductivity, and the zinc oxide for germ-fighting power. That's a pretty impressive combination. I'm starting to see why Professor Yaren calls it the Nano Shield blend. It's like this multi-layered defense system against harmful microorganisms.
And the potential applications are huge. Think about hospitals where preventing the spread of infection is critical, or schools where, kids are constantly sharing germs. Even in our homes, a self-sterilizing air filter could make a big difference in reducing the spread of colds and flus.
Okay, so we've covered the stable charge blend with its long-lasting charge, and now the Nano Shield blend with its germ-fighting capabilities. What about that third blend, the Flexi Harvest blend? I'm dying to hear more about how you can actually harvest energy from movement.
That's where things get really futuristic.
Yeah.
This blend is all about flexibility and efficiency, making it perfect for those energy harvesting applications we were talking about earlier.
All right, break it down for me. What kind of materials are we talking about here?
So this one starts with a flexible polyethylene base.
Okay.
It's lightweight, moisture resistant, and can bend and move without losing its shape, which is crucial for wearable applications.
So you could potentially integrate this into clothing or even like directly onto the skin.
Exactly. And to boost its electrical conductivity, Professor Yaron adds in a highly conductive polymer called pidote.
Keydote.
This helps ensure that the energy generated by movement can be efficiently captured and transferred.
Pido. That's another new one.
Yeah. It stands for poly 3,4-ethylene dioxythiophene, but you can just call it pido. It's known for being both highly conductive and transparent, which opens up some interesting possibilities.
Okay. So we've got the flexible polyethylene base and the highly conductive pido. What else is in this magic mix?
Well, for the final touch, Professor Yaron adds in some carbon nanotubes.
Now, those I've heard of. Aren't they like super strong and lightweight?
You got it. Carbon nanotubes are amazing materials. They're incredibly tiny, but they have this incredible strength-to-weight ratio, and they're also fantastic conductors of electricity.
So it's like adding in a super powered ingredient to boost both the durability and the energy harvesting capabilities of the blend.
You're catching on quickly. Those carbon nanotubes act like tiny electrical highways, helping to move the charge generated by movement to where it needs to go.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get the picture. So you have this flexible, conductive material that's also incredibly strong thanks to the carbon nanotubes. How does this actually translate into, harvesting energy from movement?
Think back to those triboelectric nanogenerators.
Okay.
Or TAMIs we mentioned earlier.
Right.
These devices rely on the triboelectric effect, which is basically the generation of static electricity when two materials rub against each other.
Okay, I remember you comparing it to like the static shock you get when you touch a doorknob after walking across a carpet.
Exactly. A tang is designed to capture that energy. In this case, the FlexiHarvest blend could be one layer of the tang.
Okay.
As it bends and flexes with your body's movement, it comes into contact with another material, generating that static charge.
So imagine this blend integrated into a smartwatch strap.
Right.
Every time you move your wrist, it generates a tiny bit of electricity that helps charge the watch.
That's the idea. And the applications go far beyond smartwatches. Think about clothing that can charge your phone just by you walking around, or even medical implants that power themselves using the energy from your heartbeat.
It sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie.
It really does. And the FlexiHarvest blend is just one example of how Professor Yaron's research is pushing the boundaries of what's possible with nonwoven electrets.
This is incredible. We've gone from self-sterilizing air filters to clothes that can charge your phone, all thanks to the power of nonwoven electrets. It seems like Professor Yaron is really paving the way for a future where these materials are seamlessly integrated into our everyday lives.
He really is a pioneer in this field. And the best part is that this is just the beginning. There's still so much more to explore and discover with nonwoven electrets.
I'm ready to hear about it. What else is on the horizon for this technology? Okay, so we've talked about air filters that can last longer and surfaces that can neutralize germs and even clothes that can charge your phone. What other mind-blowing applications are on the horizon for nonwoven electrets?
Well, one area that's particularly exciting is the potential for these materials in sensors.
Okay.
Imagine sensors that are so sensitive they can detect minute changes in pressure, temperature, or even the presence of specific chemicals.
Hold on, we're talking about sensors that can detect things at a molecular level.
Exactly. Non-woven electrets with their ability to, hold a charge and interact with other molecules could be the key to developing a whole new generation of highly sensitive and selective sensors.
So what kind of applications are we talking about here?
Well, the possibilities are vast.
Yeah.
Imagine medical sensors that can detect the earliest signs of disease, or environmental sensors that can monitor air and water quality with unprecedented accuracy, or even food sensors that can detect spoilage long before it's visible to the naked eye.
That's amazing. It sounds like this technology could revolutionize so many industries.
And it's not just about creating new sensors. It's also about making existing sensors better.
Okay.
Think about the sensors in your smartphone, your car, or even your appliances.
Right.
Nonwoven electrets could make those sensors more sensitive, more durable, and more energy efficient.
So we're talking about a future where our devices and our surroundings are constantly like collecting and responding to information in ways we can barely imagine today.
That's the idea. It's about creating a more connected, responsive, and intelligent world, and nonwoven electrets could play a key role in making that happen.
It feels like we're just, scratching the surface of what's possible with this technology.
We really are. And that's what makes this field so exciting. There's so much room for innovation and discovery. Just think about what Professor Yaron has been able to achieve by,
Right.
Blending polymers and incorporating nanoparticles.
He's really pushing the boundaries of like material science, and the results are pretty incredible.
He's a great example of how a creative and multidisciplinary approach can lead to groundbreaking discoveries.
So for anyone listening who's feeling like inspired by all of this, where can they go to learn more about non-woven electrets?
Well, Professor Yaron's research papers are a great place to start. They can get a bit technical,
Yeah.
but they offer deep dive into the science behind his work.
And for those who might not be ready to tackle a scientific paper, are there any other resources you'd recommend?
There are some great review articles and book chapters out there that provide a more accessible overview of the topic. And of course, the internet is a treasure trove of information with countless websites, videos, and even online courses dedicated to material science and nanotechnology.
It sounds like there's a whole world of knowledge waiting to be explored. Any parting thoughts for our listeners before I wrap up?
I think the biggest takeaway is that material science is a field that's constantly evolving, and nonwoven electrets are a perfect example of how innovation can lead to unexpected and transformative applications. It's a reminder that the future is full of possibilities and that even seemingly ordinary materials can have extraordinary potential.
I couldn't agree more. So to our listeners, we encourage you to, stay curious, keep exploring, and never stop learning. Who knows? Maybe one of you will be the next Professor Yaron, pushing the boundaries of material science and shaping the world of tomorrow.
That's a great thought to end on.
Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into the world of non-woven electrets. We'll be back next time with another fascinating exploration, so be sure to subscribe and stay tuned.